So let's talk about how to protect yourself during an urban crisis. So what is an urban crisis? Well, urban crises are typically riots and natural disasters. LA, Rodney King, Ferguson, what's going on today, Hurricane Katrina. Those are the types of things that people need to look out for. Riots and flash mobs can spring up anywhere very quickly. Now, some reasons for civil unrest include religious differences, economic stress, price increases, racial issues where a white cop kills a black person, jury verdicts, political differences. All of those things can create a state of civil unrest. You never know who or what the mob will decide to vent their anger about. So you have to pay particular attention to the news and social media for information so you can actually see what's going on and where things are developing. Because even peaceful protests can turn ugly. Psychologists call it a mob mentality. This is where people stop thinking for themselves and they get caught up in the psyche of the crowd. And fueled on by the mob, even typically well-behaved people can lose their personal morals, their inhibitions, their self-control, and they can become very violent, aggressive, and destructive. You know, someone is peacefully protesting and they see someone throw a brick through a window, and the next thing you know, they're picking up a brick and throwing it through the window too because they've seen others do it. In their mind, they think it's okay. Now, once they get into this mindset, you have to understand one thing. These rioters can't be bargained with. They can't be reasoned with. You can't negotiate with them, and you can't buy them off. So you need to get the heck out of there before the trouble starts. Usually you can tell that something's brewing. The news media, your gut will tell you, you'll hear things. But you don't want to end up relying on the government to protect you because they're not there to protect you. They're there to try to put down the riot, and you are just collateral damage in that sometimes. And you don't want to end up in some kind of shelter or mass gathering if it's a natural disaster. So do whatever it takes to get to safety. Your goal is to get out of there, or at least to get through the police to safety. Save yourself, save your family. Be prepared. Get familiar with the area. If you're in a new place, if you're visiting someplace and there's trouble there, try to get familiar with that area so you know where you can go to get out of there. If you're in a place where you have normally been before, you're probably more familiar with it, but run through your mind the things, the exits, places you can go, and make sure you have that as sort of top of the mind. But whatever you do, if you're caught in a riot, don't bring attention to yourself. You have to try to blend in. You don't want to be someone that they can sort of see that you stand out. So what you want to do, first of all, is always keep walking around. Don't stop, don't run. Both of those are bad things. So don't stop or don't run. Move with the crowd. Now, don't get involved. A lot of times, you don't want to take sides. There's usually two sides to some of these things. Don't try to take sides. Don't try to help out. Don't try to prevent property destruction. Just move away from the mob. If you're driving, keep moving. Move at a very slow pace, honk your horn, and move forward. You've seen the videos on TV and the news where people are hammering the cars and they're standing in front of it. Look, nobody wants to get run over by a car, and nobody's going to allow themselves to get run over by a car. So if you move at a slow pace, keep beeping your horn, keep moving forward, just keep driving to get out of there. Don't hit the gas and drive, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour and run over people unless your life is in danger and you have to get out of there. They're trying to drag you out of the car and beat you to death. You might want to do that. But in any case, if you feel relatively safe in the car, just keep moving until you can get out of the crowd. Now, if you're walking, move with the flow of the people. Stay calm, look for a way to exit to the side and get out. So you want to be moving, but you constantly want to be looking for a diagonal kind of exit where you can get out of there and move out of the crowd. Now, move away from the mob. Even if it's in the opposite direction of where you really intended to be or where you wanted to go, it doesn't matter. You need to get out of there. So just move away from the mob. Now, avoid the front of the mob. Police are using tear gas and, quote, non-lethal weapons, which actually could injure you and could cause severe damage nonetheless. And so you don't want to be out in the front of the crowd where the police can actually do something to you, because once you become maybe defenseless by tear gas or you're hit by a rubber bullet, you are defenseless, and you're defenseless both to the police and to the other people in the mob. Now, avoid high traffic areas. And we're talking about major roads, public squares, public transportation. Those are areas that typically the mobs will form. There'll be a lot of people there, and there'll be a lot of bad things going on. Now, you also want to avoid being pinned in. In some mobs, people actually get crushed or stampeded. The mob starts moving forward very quickly. The police are chasing them. They're running, and people have actually fallen over and been stampeded, and people have been crushed in against buildings. So you want to make sure that you don't get pinned in. So always try to have room. Always try to be away from a really tight group of people. Now, if you can't get away from the mob, find a building to go inside. Definitely avoid stores and government buildings. Those are the ones that are going to get really hammered badly, particularly stores, because they're going to be looted. But go to a place where you can lock the doors or barricade them. Go inside and go down. Most people don't think about this, but actually going down is a very good thing. If you can get to a basement, a sub-basement, find a room, a boiler room, a janitor's closet, get in there and barricade yourself in, that's a great place to hunker down. And the rioters typically don't go through the entire building. If they go in at all, it's just to destroy property and to loot. They usually stay in one area, one floor, do what they can, and they leave. And you can sit there and listen to your phone and try to find out where the mob is, what's happening, and find out when it's typically safe to get out of there. Now, always obey law enforcement if they're giving you instructions, because they're not going to believe you if you tell them that you aren't part of the mob. Police go into an us versus them mentality. Now, you really can't blame them for that. I mean, this is sort of almost like a war going on here, where they're trying to defend themselves against the crowd and against the rioters who are throwing bricks at them and maybe throwing Molotov cocktails at them. So everybody is an enemy to them. So claiming that you aren't part of the mob is going to be ignored. Just be very passive and be very cooperative. It's better to be arrested than to be beaten. Also, don't try to protect property. Your life isn't worth it. So if you have a car or there's a store or whatever, don't try to protect it. It isn't worth your life. Also, don't be a hero. If someone is hurt or being beaten, your natural inclination is to intervene. Don't do it. It'll just make you a target of the mob, or maybe even to target of the police. So just try to leave everybody alone. Your goal is to get yourself and your family or your friends out of there as quickly as possible. Now, if you have to fight for your life, because you might be. If you get attacked in a mob and they're beating you and they're picking up things, use anything you can as a weapon. If you have to pick up a rock, a brick, a 2x4, a piece of broken glass, whatever it is, you need to fight because your life is in danger. So I hope that tells you a little bit about what you need to do to protect yourself if you're in a mob situation, a riot, and I hope that you'll take this to heart and use it if it ever comes to that. I hope it doesn't, but if it does, I think that you'll be well prepared.